We are now in season 4 of the Empowerment Zone, and today I have an enlightening conversation with Marlon Addison, who is launching Marlon Mentors. He is excited about his newest endeavor. Listen to learn how Marlon Mentors can be a resource for your company or university.
Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Marlon Addison is a sales and marketing leader that teaches emotional intelligence and sales techniques to corporations as well as colleges and universities. Enjoy our conversation and see show notes for more about Marlon Mentors. As always, please subscribe to the Empowerment Zone podcast and also make sure you give us a rating on Apple Podcast. Your support will ensure that we continue our journey in empowerment and impact. Thank you. Well, welcome back to the Empowerment Zone, Marlon Anderson. How are you today?
I am fine. Marlon Addison is fine. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on. Super appreciate it. I think this is our third time around, so I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, I must like you and my audience must like you.
Smart audience.
Yes. We have talked about emotional intelligence. We've talked about fatherhood and the love that fathers create and spread throughout the world. And now we're here to talk about your newest endeavor, which I'm really excited about, is Marlon Mentors. You know, I've always believed that mentorship is so important. I know both you and I would not be where we are today if we had not had mentors in our families, right?
Yep.
Mentors in our immediate community, mentors in our educational development, as well as our professional trajectory. So I'm really interested in what you have to say about mentorship and how Marlon Mentors is going to bring light into the world.
Awesome. So, of course, I agree with everything you just said, right? Mentorship is important. And for me, I've been doing it since I was a kid without really knowing it, right? Teenage years, I would check on my little cousins, go visit them at school, making sure their, grades were up and things of that nature. So it was always a part of me. So it was one of those things, it's a bit cliche, but it's true. Something you would do without getting paid, something you just do automatically. You just don't even think about it, right? So that's what you do. That's a positive habit of mine. So with Marlon Mentors specifically, our vision is to provide individuals with the language to relationally communicate, right? Definitely have to do that. The 2 is to socially navigate. How do you talk to people? How do you partner with people? And improve their self-talk to unblock their imagination and increase their self-esteem. So in a nutshell, what I want to do is get people to realize who they are, what they bring to the proverbial table, and how they can express themselves better and not worry about the naysayers, right? Not have that concern. Just focus on what you bring. And Marlon Mentors is here to bring that out specifically for colleges and universities and also for corporations. But that's the vision of Marlon Mentors.
So you're really in your mentorship program, you're really talking about how people communicate and how is that what you're saying? Is it about communication? It's about relationship development and being able to operate in your maximum potential, I guess that it is through.
I know you guessed correctly. That's exactly right. Exactly right. It's all about emotional intelligence. That's my sweet spot. But I zeroed in on being relationally intelligent, right? Emotionally intelligent. And then I drilled even further. I'm a salesman at heart. So I always connected to the sales portion. And what I like to say is, what are you complimented on the most, right? What do people say? Oh, Ramona, you're a great speaker. I love the way that things, right? You have to listen for that because that's part of your superpowers, right? Whatever you're complimented on the most, typically that's where you shine, right? And so my tagline, and you'll see it on the website as well, is zeroing in on your zone of genius. Zeroing in on your zone of genius, meaning, again, your lane, your area of expertise, your story, your superpowers, and how can we bring that out? And how can we allow you to bring that out and voice it to other people?
I love that. And, before you go into a lot of detail about, the all the many facets of what you do, how do you define mentorship in your opinion? How in Marlon's word, how do you define mentorship? Because there's so many definitions and interpretations of mentorship.
Right, right, right.
And so before we get in on zoning in on your genius, how are you defining mentorship?
So I define it specifically in my mission, right? That was my vision, but my mission, and it specifically defines how I determine mentorship. And I'll go a little further as well, but I define it as just seeking first to understand, right, how people communicate through probing questions and provide a customized solution, right? So that's what I do. I ask you a lot of questions, right? That's a part of mentorship. I see where you are. I meet people where they are relationally and emotionally, and then we build from there. But to further that point, I think people oftentimes conflate or even interchange a mentor, a coach, a trainer, a sponsor. All those things are similar, or titles and roles are similar, but they're different, right? So a mentor is someone who typically has a routine with you, who meets with you, let's say, weekly, bi-weekly, quarterly, monthly, whatever it is, but you have a format that you follow. Okay, today, Dr. Ramona, we're going to work on relational value and equity. What does that mean? Okay, it's up to you to find out what that means, and then you come back to me and we break it down and discuss it further. We take steps when we meet each time to make sure you're becoming greater in that area of expertise. So that's mentorship, right? It's a difference from, for example, from a sponsor. A sponsor may be someone you're in a meeting with, and maybe you're in a few meetings with this person, and he or she may say, you know what? I love the way Marlon presents in meetings, or I love his points of view. I may not know. They may be behind the scenes saying, hey, Dr. Ramona, make sure Marlon's on your show because this is what I know about him and this is what how he operates in meetings, right? That's a sponsor. You may know the person, you may not, or you may know that they're sponsoring you, or you may not. So I'll pause there. But mentorship for me is a bit different.
Yeah, I like that separation and distinguishing between mentorship and the sponsor, because sponsor is more like your champion, your advocate. They open doors for you. And
Bingo.
I love the fact that you said sometimes you know who these people are, and sometimes you don't. Like that, I'm sure there are a lot of people, that there's a lot of people who have opened doors for you that you never knew existed. And you might find out years later, but then your mentor, that person, they have a routine. And so that's what you do at Marlon Mentors, is really having a routine with these people to figure out how can they zone in on their genius through relationships and emotional intelligence.
Bingo.
So why did you choose to launch this organization? There's a lot of mentorship programs out there.
Right.
Why Marlon Mentors?
So it's a few things, right? Like I said initially, it's something I do in my sleep. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm consistently mentoring, even when people don't ask, right? It's unsolicited sometimes, but I enjoy doing it. That's first and foremost. Secondarily, I wanted to put some rigor and structure around it. And I teach at William Patterson University, so I teach on business, sales training, and emotional intelligence. So that just furthered me because we have a program called a boot camp, sales boot camp program, and it's something that I teach on yearly. So I took aspects from that as well and incorporated it into Marlon Mentors, specifically around college students, right? How do I interview? I got learning plans on that, right? If they're interviewing me in a company, I should be interviewing them as well, right? What should I pay attention to when I'm interviewing? How should I interview? Also, on the separate from that, I have learning plans for corporate America, right, which I taught and trained in for over 2 decades, specifically on emotional intelligence and mentorship. How can we get a universal core story to the sales team? What are they going out to their sales force with and to the society at large with? How are you keeping them uniformed and what message are they carrying? So for me, those two things are very, very important from a collegiate standpoint onto a corporate standpoint and how to get people aligned that way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so in your mentorship program, how do you see your program a little different from the other mentorship programs? Like, there are a lot of, I'm a former college professor. I know there are a lot of programs out there that mentor college students. And then, being in corporate America, as you stated, you have over 2 decades of experience working in corporate America. There are a lot of corporate mentorship programs.
Yep.
What are you providing that is different from those others? What makes yours unique? And how do you, distinguish yourself from other programs?
So great question. So I think some of the, and it's a few, some of the biggest markers for Marlon Mentors are we focus on neurodiversity as well, right? I think it's more than one person in the world, right? We know that, or more types of people. And just relating it to sales, for an example, which Marlon Mentors is always going to dovetail into sales. My connection and niche is always going to be into sales. So different types of people buy things, right? So you have people who are obviously extroverted, introverted, ambiverted, maybe on the spectrum, like I mentioned, just a neurodiverse way of thinking. They just look and learn differently. And so I stress that. I don't think it's enough teaching of that collegiately or corporate. So that's one way Marlon Mentors is different, right? We focus on that and how you learn and what's best for you. I think secondarily, we also look at, from a problem perspective. Like I look at what problems excite you. People oftentimes look at opportunities. That's great, but I like to look at the problems. What's pressing you? What's bothering you that may not be bothering others? That's a hint to you that maybe that's something I need to solve. It's not bothering Marlon, it's not bothering Dr. Mona, but it's bothering me. So how can we get around that and work towards something again that's aligned and zeroing in on your zone of genius? So those are just two ways that I think I'm separate from the average mentorship program. We really go into details. We have specific learning plans depending on the topic. I can tweak it according to it as well. And I'm just looking to get into this. This will help later land as well, right? So I talked about collegiate work. I talked about corporate America. I'm looking at like Home Depot and Lowe's as well, and even fast food restaurants. Why do I say that? Because the average person, when you go into a Homes or Lowe's, and they've gotten better, but you want to work on the customer service. How's the customer received when he or she walks in? Do you have the product knowledge and how to relate to a customer on an average day? That's what I teach. I want to make sure that program is there for that average person walking into a store. The average fast food chain, I think Chick-fil-A does a fantastic job of how they strategize and how they conduct their business. I think there's room for improvement. However, there are other fast food restaurants, right, that can benefit from Marlon Mentors and get them to think differently and make that your mainstay in your program, because customer centricity is key. That's a key word for me, focusing on the customer, not just demographic, but the actual customer. And there's several different types of customers within one different demographic. So that's what makes me different as well.
I love it. In terms of, how you approach your mentorship program in, you know, honing it down to individual experience. Like you have these modules that you use, but
Right.
what are the goals of that particular person or that particular company, and how do they uh, uh, use their staff, or for the most part, individuals relate to other people in terms of using emotional intelligence and sales
Correct.
simultaneously.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
a lot of mentorship programs, I don't think they really focus on the person, not necessarily the person who they're mentoring, not necessarily on what the person is trying to accomplish. Like you stated, emotional intelligence informs that, as
Right.
well as, all of us are salespeople. I finally figured that out. I used to hear that. I used to hear it all the time, but I finally figured it out. That is true, right? We're all
It
selling
is.
something.
Always sell it. Always.
Whether you're trying to date, whether you're trying to get a job, whether you're trying to get a friend, I'm worthy. And I'm trying to, whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish, we are all into sales.
All, and I love it. It's a passion of mine. So it's always going to be connected. Like to that end, right? One of the things, the techniques and tactics that I use, right? And I keep it simple. And usually I get people with aha moments, right? I hate gotcha moments because I'm not a big fan of that, but I love aha moments. So one of the things that I use is incorrect versus wrong, right? Incorrect versus wrong. And I'm not going to split hairs on the definition. They mean the same thing, right? So if you're looking at it, mean the same thing. But conversationally, it's an emotional difference, right? So if I say, Dr. Ramona, I think that's incorrect, and here's why, it's typically more factually based. And folks are more eager to learn and listen to that versus, I don't know about that, Dr. Ramona. That's wrong. You are wrong for that, right? You see the connotation that we have for that? So even in speaking in general, we don't think about those things. So I'm very conscious of how, especially depending on the individual, how I phrase things and what I say. So typically, again, incorrect versus wrong, I use that as well, depending on my audience, because wrong tends to have a very heavy connotation of just being like, you wrong for that. You don't say you incorrect, right? You say, hey, you are wrong. No longer, that was wrong of you. So it's heavy versus incorrect. So I'm mindful of that.
And that goes back to that other person that you're working with your clients to see,
Correct.
How do you communicate so that you're effective in communicating with that other person versus,
Bingo. Meeting them where they
not
are.
just about you. Yeah, meeting them where they are. So now when you look at, you develop in Marlon Mentors, like who are some of your ideal clients that you are seeking to reach and seeking to help and serve? Most of all, serve, right? Because we're all
that's my number one goal, to serve you.
Yeah, we're all in the service business. We might make money doing it, but we're all in service. So who are you trying to serve and why?
Also, colleges and universities, right? Corporations, as I mentioned, fast food restaurants, and even chains like, Home Depot, Lowe's, chains such as that, even police academies, right? And teachers. And I say that because these are all roles that interact with people, not just on a daily basis, but we need to break that down several times. There are several touch points throughout the day, right? Police officers, working in service, working in fast food, it's several touch points throughout the day. How do you handle an irate customer? How do you handle someone who's giving you a hard time? And it makes it worse when you're in the right. So I focus on those nuances, right? Like, what do I do? It's something different. If I'm wrong, I still need to know how to handle myself. But if I'm right in this scenario, and oftentimes we may be, and this person is still coming after me, how do I handle that? It's a different paradigm, right? It's a mind shift. So those are my clients and my proposed clients. Why? Because again, I love dealing with the why behind it. I love aligning. You don't necessarily have to agree to align, right? We can be in a room and I can be in there with my VP, my CEO, and I may disagree ultimately with their decision, but once we leave the room, we align. So my goal is to align them corporately, right, and uniformly. And then after that, what can they live with as an individual, as a person? That's where the emotional intelligence comes in. The sales comes in, and how can I move this person in a desired direction? Not manipulate them, but move them in a desired direction so that we both get a win. So again, it's those areas, right, that I want to tackle. The why behind it. How can I get you relationally more advanced? And how can I get you to think more about the scenario, particularly when you're right? Because we tend to stick in our grounds when we know we're right, instead of, fighting through that emotion and getting to the core. So that's where I stand. That's where I stand with that.
Well, when you talk about your ideal clients and corporations, fast food chain, restaurants, educators, and
Right.
police, like you stated, those are ideal clients because they touch with the public quite often,
Correct.
several times a day.
Several times.
So with your college students, that's a different. I mean, they touch people, but it's not the same type of service. What are you trying to accomplish with college students in terms of your service to them?
So with college students, it's more specific into one, where do I want to be when I leave college? Or even before that, where do I want to be while I'm attending college? What groups do I want to join, if any? How do I organize my day? How do I organize my classes? What's important to me? Is this the true major that I want? Right. And typically I mentor the sales team. So the sales students. So I typically teach them how to present, how to think emotionally with emotional intelligence, and also how to pitch, right? You got 30 seconds, maybe a minute. How do you get your point across? How do you pitch to this person? So those are three things that I really key on when it comes to the college students.
Makes sense. So, like I stated before, we're all into service. That's what our lives should be about is, serving others
Yep,
and being a light into the world. And Marlon Mentors is one of those, efforts to do so through helping others to achieve, like you
absolutely.
said, how to zero in and zone in on their own genius.
Yep.
So, what do you hope to accomplish? I mean, you've been in corporate America, like you stated, you've been in sales and in emotional intelligence. This is another arm of Marlon Mentors. I mean, of Marlon Addison, excuse me.
Right.
What are you hoping to accomplish through Marlon Mentors?
So I think it's going to be ongoing, right? It's going to change as I mature, as I grow, and the different clients that I have, because I learn as much as from them as they learn from me. But I think ultimately, I want to societally bring about a positive change, right? And not to be corny or cliche, but I really want you to run into somebody, maybe you're having a bad day, and that person responds with such high emotional intelligence that it just brings you down, and you're like, wow, you know what? I apologize. I was just having a wrong day, but it won't happen if we're both here. So, from a community perspective, I hope to bring that level of change so that when we interact with each other, we can respect each other's spaces and time, right? You never know what somebody else is going through. You just don't. We know that, but I don't think we truly understand that or comprehend that. It's not going to take away from me if somebody quote unquote gets smart with me, and even I can't bring them down emotionally, right? Maybe I can't, because some days we're not going to be able to do that. How am I going to respond? Still, I should still keep my emotional intelligence and go about my way, because it's not going to help it if I escalate the issue. So again, my goal is to have that positive effect on the community at large, any way I can.
Whoa. So we live in this society now that's like always picking at each other, right
Yep.
now. That's the type of society we live in. And we're very polarized as an American community. So it sounds like you want to bring a little bit more peace in the world through how people communicate and react to one another. Um, how do you propose doing that? Do you think people change just through knowledge, or is there something else that you're providing that, hey, I'm going to react differently? I'm going to have some emotional intelligence when I'm interacting with somebody that uh, m- may be difficult to relate to, because you're talking about customer
Right, right,
service, right? You talked about
right.
all those people who have different touch points.
Yep.
So how do you think it's only about teaching people certain skill sets, or do you think it's more than that through Marlon Mentors?
No, it's definitely more than that, right? More than that, because now, and I like the question because it's layered and it's more nuanced. So of course you can teach something, right? And I'm not saying everybody can teach, right? Because that's a different skill set. But for me, knowledge is the first part of it, right? You hear the cliche, knowledge is power. No, the application of knowledge is power.
That's it.
And the application of knowledge and understanding it, right? Understanding knowledge and how to use it, that's wisdom. So that's the nuance, right? I can have the information, but what am I doing with it, right? I know where the light switch is, but if I don't turn it on and off, then it is what it is, right? I didn't put any action or effort toward it. So I think trying to help people get to a level of wisdom, because when you have that, you will act differently, right? I love Muhammad Ali, and I'm paraphrasing, right? Um, Basically, if you have the same mindset you did if you as you were 16 years old and let's say you're 50, then that's a tough way to go, right? Like you haven't learned anything if you still have that same mindset. So my goal is to help you change your mindset, not overnight, right? These things take time. It takes time for me as well. So I think getting to the wisdom component of it and helping people understand that level and layer, I think that helps.
I like the fact that you using Muhammad Ali's quote reference because that's what life is all about, is evolution. You're not
Right.
supposed to stay the same all the time. We're always supposed to be evolving. So through Marlon Mentors, your hope and expectation is that when people gain this knowledge, they will not only have the knowledge but know how to apply it, and then develop a certain level of wisdom because they know how to use the techniques and the knowledge
Right.
and skills that you have provided them.
Right. And statistically speaking, since the pandemic, I was listening to a few shows on this, but I listened to one most recently, a good friend of mine, frat brother of mine. They have a franchise show and they had a behavioral scientist up there. And she specifically noted how since the pandemic, adaptability has gone down.
Mm.
People are less adaptable to situations. And I'm sure middle school teachers, high school teachers, and even college students, teachers can relate to that. Students are more apprehensive, and you saw them, especially during the height of the pandemic, how reserved they were or withdrawn they were. And then even coming back to the class, we noticed a level of immaturity, right? Because they didn't adapt over that. We've gotten lesser in that area. So that's a concern of mine. And I'm noting that for Marlon Mentors. And that's something that I zero in on as well. So adaptability.
So at the empowerment zone, we're always concerned or focused on empowerment and impact.
Mm-hmm.
So lastly, could you tell me how you expect that Marlon Mentors will empower uh, the community and impact the community? What's your legacy that you want to put out there, there's your vision to accomplish through Marlon Mentors?
Yeah, like I noted earlier about the vision to relationally communicate and help you with your self-talk. That's really, if you take anything from today's podcast, is your self-talk, right? We talk to ourselves every day, several thousand times a day, and oftentimes 85 to I believe 90% of those thoughts are repeated and they're negative.
Mhm.
So my legacy is to try to capture that and say, hey, this is what we normally do statistically. Why can't we reverse that, right? Why can't we be different in our way of thinking? So if I can renew your mind that way, if I can help you to, again, think differently and change your self-thought and how you view yourself, what somebody else says about you, you won't bring to like a self-fulfilled prophecy. You'll know who you are from within, whether if you have a good day or bad day. So I focus on your self-talk, and I hope that that's a legacy that Marlon Mentors leaves wherever I am, collegiately, corporately, service industry, police, doesn't matter. These are difficult situations and difficult jobs, and I want to bring some form of not just uniformity, but unity. And there's a difference.
Marlon Mentors, transforming people and communities through the renewing of their minds.
I'm gonna have to steal that. I'm gonna have to steal that.
Hey,
Doc.
you can have it. You said it. You said it. So Marlon Addison is back at the Empowerment Zone. And you know, Marlon, we always in the Empowerment Zone with strategies for college success. I'm a big advocate for higher education and people taking the time to develop their minds, gifts, and talents on the college campus.
Awesome.
And, you know, all of us have had different college experiences in college. And you're also a professor at a college. And
yep.
And I've been a professor, and since we've had different experiences, we have different types of advice. So if you could advise students, since you're such a great mentor, on how to be successful in college, what would you advise them to do?
So it's a couple of things, but I'll try to narrow it down to 3. So one, I would say, what are your milestones, right? What do you want to do now? And what do you want to do next, right? According to your major. If you don't have a major, that's okay. Are you talking to your advisors? Are you talking to Marlon Mentors? Who are you speaking with to help discover that? So milestones, that way you have a marker, right? And a line of demarcation. This is where I am and how I move forward. Or maybe I regressed a little bit, which is okay. And we can work on that. But without that milestone, you won't know. That's 1. 2, I would say work on your soft skills, meaning transferable skills. Any position you go to, I don't care if the industry differs quite dynamically or they're diametrically opposed. Those transferable soft skills are important. How you present yourself, how you speak, emotional intelligence, learning people, right? And then lastly, being collaborative, right? What are your collaborative measures? How are you working with others? How are you partnering with others? And how is that helping? So those 3 things I will offer to the college community.
Love those great 3 pieces of advice. When you get to college, you know, make sure you define your milestones. What are the key things that you want to accomplish during your 4 or 5 year period on the college campus or your matriculation through college? Number 2, work on your soft skills. These are skills that are transferable that you take anywhere. You know, whether it's relationships, how you relate to others, emotional intelligence, you know, how you communicate, all those soft skills. And number 3, learn how to be collaborative. And what collaboration means is how you work with others. Thank you so much, Marlon, for this great advice. I'm sure a lot of college students are going to appreciate this.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.